there's business goes like this.
Sure.
So when you're down, not to give up and keep your nose to the grindstone. I always say I'm a gardener, so I'm like, just keep planting those seeds. Plant those seeds. God's going to bring it back around for you.
Welcome to Set Life, where we tell stories from our industry. I'm Kelly Leger, and this is Amber Buteau.
Welcome to Set Life. We're here at For the One Studio in Soundstage 1 with a guest that I thoroughly enjoy having a conversation with. Welcome to the show, Melanie Johnson.
Thanks so much. It's so great to be here. Thanks for having me today.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay, so tell our audience who you are, a little bit about you, and kind of set the stage of kind of what
the
we're going to talk
backstory.
about.
I guess, people say all the time, I'm a serial entrepreneur, but I started out as a newscaster. And that I was Miss Michigan, which propelled me into getting a newscaster job.
Wow.
And then from that end, I learned TV production and PR. And then my husband and I had a license to start a TV station here in Houston. So we built a TV station from scratch, from the ground up. What an experience.
Oh my.
It was challenging, but so exciting and thrilling at the same time to see all of that come to life. And I produced the morning show that we had there. I was also a newscaster, president of Johnson Broadcasting. And, you're starting from the ground up. No one knows who you are.
Yeah.
And Houston's such a great town because it's so entrepreneurial and they embrace new people and wildcatters, so to speak. And then we bought another TV station in Dallas. And then life changed, the market changed, my marriage changed. And then I was trying to hold on to everything. I had two really large homes. And that was 2008, right? The market was horrible. So I was pending. My husband decided to file for bankruptcy. We were then divorced, but he filed for bankruptcy like 5 months after we divorced, and everything just was frozen. He's like, good luck paying the electric bill this month. I'm like, all right. Wow. And so you have to reinvent yourself. I had another large home. I had 25,000 square feet here in Houston, 13,000 square feet up in Michigan as a summer residence. And there was no Airbnb, but a new thing called VRBO had just started, vacation rental. Not many people were using it. And at the time, realtors were really the only ones who would help you rent your house. And they told me, your house isn't going to rent. It's too big. You want too much money for it. So a realtor rented my house in the Michigan for 1 week, that whole summer. And a friend of mine helped me with the VRBO thing and to write the description and put it up there. And then I created a website for the house, which didn't know what I was doing, but figured it out. Yeah. And I sold out the whole summer.
Wow.
So I netted like $140,000
oh my.
Renting the house that summer. And I thought, I wonder if that'll work in Houston. So I went in there, and Houston only had like apartments and condos. And all right, I'm going to throw a 25,000 square foot house up there. But one of the lessons I learned is, you have to be ready for success. And I kept saying, no one's coming to the house in Houston. And I asked myself, Melanie, do you have the house ready for success? If someone said tomorrow, I want to rent your house, is it ready? I'm like, no, I don't have the lockdown closets. I didn't streamline the house. So I went through and streamlined everything and made sure it was ready, that if tomorrow someone did, I would be ready. And sure enough, like a week later, got my first rental for $10,000 for the weekend, which turned into, people even came in for cancer treatments that would rent the house for a month, which turned into people wanting to rent it for events and weddings. It was so joyful having all these weddings at the house. And then photographers saw it and said, hey, can we rent part of the house for photos? So I was doing photo shoots there. I was really ahead of my time because nobody else was doing that at all. But then eventually the houses did get foreclosed on. So I said, then I was, out of work and homeless at the same time. But I started dabbling into real estate reinvestment, where I was tearing down houses and connected with builders and put multiple condos there or townhouses there. And then that market started to fall apart and was partners with the wrong people. So that didn't turn out great. But my interest was in the internet. So think about 2008, what was going on. So I wanted to educate myself because I felt like TV was going to be a dinosaur and everything was going to go to the internet, which it has.
Yes.
And so throughout my journey of learning all of that and online marketing and digital, part of it was learning learning how to publish a book. So I wrote a book. I had this vacation home in the Dominican Republic, and I thought, well, I'm going to write a book about the best restaurants and places to go in the Dominican. And, you go to these things and sometimes you see the same people at some of the same conventions. And there was a gal there, Jen Foster, and she knew I had this vacation home, and we both weren't going to have our kids. For her, it was the first time in the month of June, and neither was I. And she goes, we should go like down to your vacation rental in the Dominican, but we should make money. And I go, okay. So we brainstormed and we came up with, we should do a book writing retreat there. Now, Jen's background was a website developer and digital marketer. So she made a website while we were there on the breaks. Canva just came out, if anyone knows what Canva is now. Yeah. And someone said, hey, there's this new thing called Canva. So we made the logo, we did everything, and we did a book writing retreat and thought, well, this would be fun, maybe do it once a year. But what happened is we came back, launched the book. They both became bestsellers. And all of a sudden, people were calling me, I didn't know you published books. Can you go to lunch with me? Can you have coffee with me? Yep. And next thing I know, I said, hey, I think we have like a little side hustle here. So we incorporated. But I was still really doing real estate development. She still had her Social Boom website development company. So it was like going to be a side hustle. But before we knew it, it became our main hustle. As real estate and the development kind of crashed with oil was crashing at that time. And so I've been doing it 8 years. We've made all of our authors #1 bestsellers, whether it's Wall Street Journal or Amazon International Bestseller. We get book awards. We did find that some authors, we were just publishing and marketing at the time, and authors say, oh, I really want to write a book. Let me get back to you when I work on that. But then, a year, 2 years would go by, and they never wrote their book because it is kind of daunting. Yes. So we have a partnership with a ghostwriter and editors, and we do a VIP day. So they come in for the day, and we get their whole book crafted, all those ideas that are scattered everywhere. Wow. You know who you are that have those ideas that are everywhere. Is it my personal story? Is it my business expertise? We hone all that in. And you were saying in the green room, well, what is this going to do for your business? Who are the people you're trying to get? Is this scalable? Yep. So we ask all those business questions. It's like getting business coaching almost in a day. So we spend the whole day. You get the book crafted, the outline done, and we write about 10,000 words that actually go in the chapters, and then work with them with either ghostwriting or coaching from there. And I just love what we do because it's just, someone gets so excited when they have that book in their hand and they know they're going to change lives by someone who's going to read it. It changes the reader's life, but it also changes the author's life.
Amen. Wow. Amen to that.
I love what you do. Oh my gosh, that's a lot. You were like,
I unpacked it a lot on y'all.
No, that was great.
Great.
You were like so ahead of the curve. Like, oh my goodness. Like there's some of the things that you described there, I only found out just a few years ago, that you were doing a long time ago. I was like, really? I didn't know that stuff was even around then. Yeah. I'm like, that's amazing that you rode that wave. Like you led the wave. And the writing thing is really phenomenal. Don't get me started on all that. I'm going to let you talk because I will go down that path and I will not come back.
Yes, I know.
It's very cool. So.
I know. What's great about your story, I hear innovator and disruptor in your story. And, I think that's a special gift given when you hit multiple barrier points in your story, you call them out. At those points, you innovated and disrupted something. So it was, a constant pivot that allowed you to keep finding success.
And I would say I have a kind of a fun story is, during that time when I was trying to sell the houses still, and I decided to take a video and put it on YouTube. And we were with Martha Turner Realty at the time, and they dropped me because they said, oh, we would never put a house on YouTube. And I was like, really? And now everybody's there. And I'm like, there's eyeballs there. Yeah. Yes. And I even put the house on eBay because people were throwing houses on eBay. I'm like, I'm going to put the house on eBay. And because of that, I even got an offer from somebody who actually, it sustained me in bankruptcy court for a while. Wow. But moving forward to today, that disruptor, we're really embracing AI, but trying to embrace it in a real positive way. Right. Yes. Of what are the, you ask the questions, how do we embrace this in our business to make our processes and systems faster and better?
Yep.
And then how do we embrace this to offer different services and products to our clients that are going to benefit them and take them farther and faster?
Yes. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I think people are always scared of the new stuff, right? Is it going to work? Is it not going to work? Is it for us? Is it against us? Whatever it is. But you have embraced some things that so a lot of people, the old saying, right, paralysis through analysis. They don't know what to do, so they do nothing.
Yeah.
It's like I have, in your story, I never hear that. It's like you were this the constant reinventor.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to figure this out. We're going to do something. Yeah. That's profound in and of itself.
Yeah. Most people, the new that comes on the scene of anything, everyone's afraid of because we fear what we don't understand.
Sure.
So that new is a little like, oh, I don't know. Like, I don't fully understand this, so pump the brakes.
Right.
Like, hold. Versus an innovator goes, oh, I've got something new to deal with.
Right.
Like, what am I going to do with that?
Yeah.
Like, what do I do with that? Like, that's so exciting.
Exactly.
And how do I take that thing and then incorporate it and solve a problem with it?
As opposed to being fearful of it, because that's unfortunately, that seems to be the default for people, is they will fear it more than get excited over it, And so that's, wow.
Yeah.
So true. And I think you get lost in the AI version. Like, there's so many different choices. There's a gazillion things every day. There's probably 1,000 more AI things that are coming out.
Sure.
And I'll share with your audience just a couple that have worked with us to be helpful for them.
Yeah.
So one thing that I think is really cool, there's ChatGPT, right?
Yes.
ChatGPT-4. So you put your prompt in and it gives you the answer. But we found, and then Gemini is out. All these different platforms have their own. There's a thing called Chat Hub. And on Chat Hub, you can have 6 responses at one time from all of those different platforms. So then, and they're all a little different. The answer's a little different.
Right.
So like if you're writing a script for social media or like promotion for this podcast, you say, I want to promote this podcast. Melanie Johnson's on. She's an expert. Write me 3 emails to go out and 4 social media posts, blah, blah, blah. And then they all come up with something different. And then you can go from there.
Yeah.
And then there's another thing I love called Cast Magic, where you can take this audio from here, put it into Cast Magic, and it's like a menu. Like, oh, I'm going to have a salad. Oh, I'm going to have an appetizer. Oh, I want this for my main, my dessert. So with that, you can say, oh, I want a LinkedIn post. I want an article. I want a blog post. I want a TED Talk. So you can click all those things, and then when you put the input in, it writes all of that at one time for you.
Wow.
Amazing, right?
It is amazing.
That's really.
And one thing I think is interesting, I think people need to understand, it's not like it will do as much or as little as you want it to do. To me, the way I've used it is I will use it as a guide. It'll be inspirational, a guide. Like, oh, I didn't think about saying it that, whatnot. And then I'll go through and edit it. I'll make it that much more my own.
Yeah,
but
you
it
have
really
to edit.
helps.
For sure. You definitely have to edit. What I think it is like, when I think if we're going to throw real estate into this conversation, which is half my brain too, then I would say it's like building the foundation of a home. You have the blueprints, you know where you're going, but you need a strong foundation of it. So it's like gives you a foundation to work with. Once you've got the foundation, it's easy to go up.
Yeah.
Right.
So once you get the format of whatever it spits out, AI is so good. And I look at it as, how does it make me save time? Time is what we all have the same amount of and don't have enough of.
That's it.
Right. So it's like, how do I maximize and where do I give and take? Like in production, you're going to say you've got all these AI tools that can go cut up you 30 reels right away. Like just throw it in, spit it out. Yet we have an editor too that's like, yeah, but it kind of cuts at a weird time. It doesn't make the conversation. You have to have the human touch. So you're still going in and saying, okay, yeah, that one worked, but this one didn't work.
Right.
You're able to, but it just saved you time instead of cutting
so much
all
time.
the little things first. It
Right.
like gave you a foundation to start from, and then you work from there.
Yeah,
so I think it's a great tool.
Yeah, you have to use it like as an assistant, and keep asking
There
it
you
questions
go.
if you're
Yeah.
not getting what you want. And we're even, the next phase in publishing for it is we're offering now AI books, AI that is audiobook. So we have, you can do your own voice, you can hire a voice talent, or you can have full AI voice, or we can take up to 30 minutes of your voice sample and then AI will mimic your voice, and the book will sound like it's in your voice.
Amazing.
And some top authors are using this tool to do
Yes.
that.
Saves time.
Yeah, it saves time, and it's like it's you. And then the other thing we're doing, my team right now is creating a GPT for me. So it's all of they've uploaded videos of me, scripts of me talking, and then it starts to learn my voice. So when I go into chat, I hit my GPT, the Melanie GPT, so I don't have to say, make it sound like this, make it sound like that. It already knows what I sound like. So now, like we had keywords, my one assistant says, use the word imagine a lot. So we got imagine in there. We have your different keywords that you use. And so now it's like it takes that edge off. You're already that one step ahead. So
Wow.
we want to use that for our clients, that when they come to us to hire us for social media, that we create a GPT for them. So then it starts to be in their voice, and it makes our staff better, because that's half of it. Oh, it doesn't sound like me.
Yeah,
You know,
that's
when
right.
you're creating the social for
Yeah,
me. So now we're really going to hone in. So it's ahead of the game. They don't, and then anyone can do it. So if your team member changes, instead of Sally doing it, Jeff is doing it now.
Yeah.
So that they have the GPT, they don't have to relearn their voice.
Right.
Yeah.
That's like next level building an avatar, like for something. That's profound.
Yeah.
How about this? Like we, excuse me, we spend a lot of time overseas, and so we're doing content overseas a lot.
Yeah.
In languages that we don't speak. But now it's unbelievable that it can basically, you give them a video, as you know, give them a video of yourself, give them all the script, it translates it, and then puts it in your mouth and makes you speak it perfectly.
Yes, I've seen that.
I showed a video to my wife the other day of one of my
that's
cousins
dubbed.
speaking perfect Spanish, this entire monologue, and she was watching it going, I had no idea Matt spoke Spanish. And I'm like, he doesn't. And his mouth's moving, his head's moving. It was amazing.
Wow.
A tool to
pretty
get in
crazy.
all these other languages. I mean, it's a game changer.
I wonder if they've done
Makes
a
it more global.
movie
does.
like that.
Could.
Yeah.
It very well could. Probably will. Probably have.
This is what I'm thinking. You know,
Yeah.
I wonder. It's
We could do this podcast in Spanish.
Well,
maybe
maybe
we're
we are
not
gonna do
even
it.
speaking this right now as you're watching.
maybe we're speaking French right now, and you're hearing it in English.
So true.
I mean, I think for the next generation, I think that AI is going to do a lot of great things for us.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, man, how do you know what's real and what's not?
Yeah, there's the dark side.
There's the side of, we know because we saw the invention come about.
Mm-hmm.
So we are aware of where it is and where it's not.
Right.
This next generation will not be aware of where it is and where it's not. They will only know it as it is. Like my daughter doesn't know life without an iPhone.
Right.
You know, like she doesn't know being somewhere in the middle of nowhere
Mm-hmm.
and can call nobody. And
Right.
you're figuring out how to
Right.
find somebody.
Right.
Like
Right.
it's you know, I mean, you problem solve, those muscles to problem
wild.
solve
Mm-hmm.
and all of that are exercised. So you
Yeah.
have to think and strategize. Who am I? What do I want to sound like? You can't just tell somebody, hey, just tell me who I am. Tell me what I think. Tell me what I
Yeah.
sound like. Tell me, oh, and that must be who I am. You
Mhm.
know, there's the flip side of all of those things that I think will be interesting to see how we use it, how we monitor it, and do all of that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think that the flip side to the positive side, which is the side I generally always stay on, is how do we use it for us? How do we be smart with it? You know, how do we invent with it? All of that. But then there is the flip side to that conversation.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to we'll ultimately, like we have with a lot of things that are, you know, to me, it's a tool. Like these cameras, this microphone, they're neutral.
Mm-hmm.
It's about which way you use it for. It's not inherently an evil microphone, but you can do some pretty evil things with words, right? So it's just about how it's going to be used. And so that, you know, that indicates that we have to put parameters on things, filters, to make sure it stays positive and not, you know, negative. So I'm excited about all the tools. I know you guys are too, but how we use it. But I hadn't even thought about like a future generation who never knew a world without this kind of AI technology.
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Their brains are going to be wired differently than ours.
They
100%.
Oh my
100%.
Wow.
And they'll innovate even in that.
They will.
Oh,
You know, they'll
Mm-hmm.
innovate in a way that is using that technology that our brains would have not had the muscle exercise in neither. But it's also what I like about your company and what y'all do is you are able to take all the collective knowledge and experience that you've had and integrate the new technology that's coming and give the best parameters for that and say, here's what's working now. Here's taking this and this versus being like, oh, I know I've had all this experience and I know all this and that I'm not sure about. It's like, no, this is a new thing. Let's learn it and let's integrate it to what we're doing. I love that about your company. I think y'all do such a great job at doing that and using all the resources that are available for people and are open and honest about them, you know, and share them. You've been so great with that. And all of our conversations that we've ever had is just a wealth of knowledge that you just generously give that I think is so great. And that's what you get when you come to work with you guys.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, whether you call us and you aren't a client of ours, we're really still willing to give you some coaching and some valuable information so you walk away that, all right, like maybe they're not in my budget, but they gave me so much value and they made me feel like I learned something. I've had authors tell me, I've worked with traditional publishers and I learned more from you in 20 minutes than I've learned from them working with them for 3 years.
Yeah.
So, and that's what it is. I think in business, you want to be able to give back. You want to be able to give from your heart and your knowledge. It's not to keep it, oh, well, if they don't pay me. I mean, you don't want to be taken advantage of, but if someone's there, you're there for their time anyway, so give it to you. Kind of going back to the AI thing, we asked, well, should you write an AI book? And my answer is no. If you want it to be you, only you know what's inside your head. And there's people that are cranking out these AI books, and Amazon has now put a limit. You can't publish more than 3 books a day because people were just throwing content out there. And they're asking you, is your book partial AI, all AI? Did you use AI at all? So you have to check these boxes and you just don't know what Amazon's going to do. They may eventually not let books with AI on there. We were doing a bunch of low content books at the time when we first started. We were doing journals, we were doing guest books, we were doing inspirational type quote books. And Amazon, all of a sudden, we had 2,600 of those books out there.
Wow.
Amazon said, nope, not allowing those anymore. And that whole account, all of those books just went away. So, you know, you are subject to these platforms, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Amazon, that they can just erase you. We've had friends of ours in our mastermind that he had a YouTube channel, and for some strange reason, and his was about maps and geography and different things, and they just took him off. So, you know, and you'll say why, and they'll say, well, you know, you're not following our terms and conditions, and here's 10 of them.
Right.
And it's always changing.
And what are you going to do?
And most of the time, you know, you're saying, here's our terms and conditions. It's 12 pages of fine print. And you're just like, yeah, check, whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you don't really know some of those ins and outs. So you have to know. And we've had authors that have even gone on, and for some reason, Amazon, we had the president of the International Chamber of Commerce, his book has been published all out there. And they said, just the paperback book, we're taking off because we don't think you wrote the book. Like, we don't know if this is your content. We're like, what? What? So, you know, and then you're fighting Amazon. So you have to go back and forth, and you don't get to talk to a human anymore.
You don't get to talk to a person. No people. It is email system.
Yeah.
And it is a nightmare.
And that's why it's important, I think, to have a publisher behind you that's going to fight that fight for you, that's normally, you know, knows how to communicate back and forth versus you're like, I don't know what the heck to do.
Right.
But I would say that back to the AI, it's great for ideas. It's great to get started, but you really need your personal stories and your personal experience layered into that book.
Right.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. Yep. That's great.
I love it.
Yeah.
Gosh.
So
What do you think has been a key to the success over the years for you?
Yeah, I would say, you know, faith, hope, right? You always got to have that because business goes like this.
Sure.
So when you're down, not to give up and keep your nose to the grindstone. I always say I'm a gardener. So I'm like, just keep planting those seeds. plant those seeds. You know, God's going to bring it back around for you.
Right.
Just got to plant the seeds.
Yes.
And what's the lesson to be learned when things go upside down? What am I not looking at? And I tell my son, who's running a successful business at 23 years old, I said, when things go wrong, you're reanalyzing everything. What if when things were going right, you reanalyzed everything? What are we doing right with our finances? What are we doing right with our advertising and our marketing? And to always look at that. So you're still keeping the foot and the pedal to the metal, even when you're having the success. It's great to pat yourself on the back and take that moment. But if you keep that pressure on during then, I think it helps you stay successful. And always reanalyzing your goals for your business, going through those building blocks of business. What's successful? How do we make more profit? How do we change our margin? How do we serve our clients better? How do we embrace technology? Do we have our processes and systems all documented? Because, you know, that was for a while, we weren't really doing that. And so now I'm like, is it documented? Did you document the process? Can someone else come in and do exactly what you're doing with the instructions that you're going to leave them? We created portals for our company. So we realized that, you know, authors had a lot of the similar questions over and over again. So we created an author portal. So when they become a client, they get access to the author portal. We have, you know, how to build your bio, how to do all these different things, what to expect, all the steps of the system, and they get access. Then we decided, you know, they really should have a marketing portal because we're telling them how to market their book. Let's put all the PDFs and resources into the book marketing portal. So they have access to that as well. So they can go in and have all these resources versus us retelling them all the time. We can still discover that. So it's really keeping your business relevant, embracing that technology like AI, what's new. You don't want, I always say, you don't want to become Blockbuster.
Right.
So that's our saying. What are we doing? We don't want to become that. We don't want to be irrelevant. The market's changing. We need to change with it. So it's a lot of things. It's not just one thing, I think. You know, you've got to spend a time reevaluating your business. I would say at least once a quarter of what we're doing. And my business partner and I, we started doing Friday training, just her and I. What are we going to learn this week? Let's pick a video we're going to watch. Let's analyze somebody's book, and let's spend an hour saying what's new in the industry or reevaluating, like you know, there's the book Eat the Frog. Let's read that. Let's talk about what we're doing to accomplish our goals. So I think you have to train, constantly learning and evolving and innovating.
Such a lesson on not getting comfortable. I mean, just the keeping the press on. You know, that's awesome.
You know, it's funny you bring up Blockbuster. I was just talking to somebody the other day, and we were talking about actually Blockbuster and Hastings. So if you remember what Hastings was back in the day, they started in music, and then they started selling videos and DVDs and all of that. And they were a direct kind of competitor to Blockbuster, but Blockbuster was the McDonald's of the industry. I mean, it was huge, right? Well, Mr. Hastings, who owns Netflix.
No, wait, is Hastings the thing that was like the subscription thing? Or do you like mail stuff in and back and forth and get CDs and things like that?
Netflix really started as a mail order.
Is that thing I got stuck in and could never get out of?
Yeah, probably.
No, that's Redbox.
Oh, that was
You're
a different
thinking
thing.
of Redbox.
One of
where it
those
was
I was
outside of
thinking.
like CVS, and you could
Yeah,
rent
there was the
Right.
Redbox, but then Hastings was an actual storefront where you could go in and get things and stuff like that. And anyways, Hastings offered Blockbuster to buy Netflix for $1 million when Blockbuster was $1 billion company. That's like chump change, right? At that point. And they're like, nobody's going to do that. Nobody's going to do that. So her reference, her addition to Blockbuster is that very thing. Blockbuster had the opportunity to go, where's the market going? What is this? What's the new technology? How likely is it? Do we invest in that?
Right.
We're at the top of the game. Who cares? We don't need to reevaluate our company. We're banking, man. We're doing great.
Right.
So in those successes, you're always looking to what's coming, what's out there, how do we stay on the edge, where do we need to invest a little bit at? You know, that's the risk taking of business, in my opinion, of, you know, fostering and staying relevant. If you're looking at something and trying to be relevant, you're not relevant. It's forecasting.
Let's talk about failure a little bit in that, because not all of those things work out. I mean, I think of things that Facebook has tried and they said, oh, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but I know there's an abundance of these, and Amazon too. They've tried this. They've spent
Yes.
$200 million and it didn't work, so they're going to stop doing that.
Right.
They tried this and they made an investment.
Right.
So sometimes you have to say, I'm not going to be afraid to fail.
Right.
I'm not going to be afraid to take a chance and maybe lose money.
Yeah.
But the loss to me is an education.
There you go.
Because
Yeah.
it's an investment in your education that you still get something out of it, that you learned something from it.
That's
Maybe
right.
it's one little tiny piece of what that big picture was
Totally.
that actually turns into the multi-million-dollar or
Yes.
billion-dollar
It's
thing
huge.
from that small thing.
It's so
So don't be afraid to go out there and fail. Don't be afraid to try.
Yeah.
We had an author yesterday, and part of the title of her book is Fearless. And she's like, well, what if someone else has my book title? What if someone else, we're like, we need, the covers are out. We're deciding on the covers. Send the cover options out to the universe. Let them get excited about it. She says, well, maybe I shouldn't. I'm like, wait a minute. Part of the name of your book is Fearless. And now you're telling me you're afraid like someone's going to steal your title of your book or your idea. I'm like, let's
Right.
walk into Fearless and
Right.
let's just do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And I think the key to that too is failure happens no matter what in life. If you're moving forward, that's a part of the growth process. Where you get stuck is if you quit.
That's right.
It's only a failure if you quit. It's not a failure if you keep moving.
Right.
Right.
It's
That's it.
actually a stepping stone to success.
Right.
So that's one of the hardest parts, because when you hit failure, it hits our emotions, it hits our mental game, it hits the self-talk, it hits all of that.
You fall off a horse as a kid. You don't ever want to get back
Back
on the
on
horse,
again.
but the best thing to do.
Get right back
back
on
on
it
it,
again
yeah.
to conquer that fear that you don't get stuck in that.
Yes.
Right.
So good.
And that is where, as growing and starting and developing and doing things, and I look to say, okay, what would be most beneficial when people are like, man, how did you do this or whatever? That's 90% of what I say.
So good.
You can't be afraid to take the risk.
Yeah.
You're probably going to fail. And when you do, you just can't stop there.
Right.
Yeah.
You got to get back up.
Right.
You got to figure it out.
Yeah.
The people that don't hit success isn't because they weren't capable.
Right.
Yeah.
It's because they chose to stop.
Exactly. Yeah.
And what's the difference between, you look at the people that have gone on to have successful careers and all kinds of, all of them didn't quit.
Right. That's right.
All of them say, man, I had this super failed business.
Right.
I had this thing that fell apart.
Yes,
I was
yes.
at my lowest of lows.
Totally.
And out of that, and what I also know is, in your biggest failures is if you don't quit, is the birth of invention, because you innovate out of necessity. Oh my gosh, here I go. Again, necessity. And so when you have, yesterday I couldn't say efforts. Here I go again.
Effortlessly.
Yeah. And so,
Those LY words.
yeah, apparently. And anyway, so that need to create, that need that you have to do something,
Yeah.
creates invention in us.
And some people may ask, well, that's easy for you to say. I'm down. How do I get back up?
Yeah.
What's my toolbox? How do I get from being mentally low and wanting to do it again? And I think that's hard, having that covers over your head. I'm not going to do it. I'm done. Life is over.
Yep.
And either you can spend your time feeling sorry for yourself for a week, a month, a year, 5 years, or you can pull yourself up from your bootstraps. And you have to find what works for you. Faith works for me. Prayer works
Same.
for me. Also, listening to things like this podcast that
Yes,
motivate you. So, I start my day almost every day listening to something
Same.
that is going to get me going and spark things in my head that
Yep.
makes me feel good about myself, makes me feel good about life, and teaches me something. So it's like, think of it as like a muddy glass of water, right? That's when you're down. Your brain is filled with this mud in your glass. But if you start filling it with this crystal clear water and just keep pouring it in, the muddy water is going to flow out until it's crystal clear again.
Yeah.
So it's protecting your brain and surrounding yourself by positive people, positive input into your brain, and keeping that faith, I think, and making sure you don't lose hope. Because if you lose hope, then everything's gone.
Falls apart. Yeah.
Wow.
One thing to add on to that I recently learned, and it was sometimes when you get to the point of immense failure, but you've usually worked really, really hard. To get to a failure, you've had to commit a lot to feel that deep of a failure.
Yeah.
So you've committed a ton, you've worked really hard, and you didn't get the results you wanted. You're exhausted. Have you ever tried to teach a 2-year-old to tie their shoes right before nap? You have not. Why? Because they're so tired it will not work.
Right.
They can't hear, you can't. You're just exhausted. Nothing looks right. When you find rest and a bit of rest to give yourself a sure-footedness, now when you come out of the rest, a little bit of a rest season, take a break, take a little step back, reset, find some rest, and then now pour in that rest time, goodness. And when you find whatever that goodness is for you, you pour that in, a newfound strength comes and a new perspective comes on the rise up. You look back and you're like, oh, I will never do that again, but what I will do is this. You know, and that's where that whole process starts. Those are choices. To not just stay in bed with the head under the covers, but you choose to like roll over and just be like, okay, I'm gonna get some rest, intentional rest. I'm gonna rest for a couple of days and be intentional about that time so that I can rise stronger.
Yeah.
You know,
and get some clarity. It's that self-care, having that self-care during that time and get clarity.
Yeah.
Very good.
Okay, well, this can keep going and going. I know it can, because I just love these type of conversations. But how does our audience connect with you if they've got a book, if you got a book that you need to help with, or marketing or social media, any of that? How do they find you and get involved with what you're doing?
You can connect with us on all of our social media. We're eliteonlinepublishing.com, eliteonlinepublishing.com. We're everywhere. We're on YouTube. We have podcasts about publishing, Elite Publishing Podcast, Elite Expert Insider Podcast. And then we have an author submission form on our website. And I'd love to give you one of our new books. It's the Strategic Writing System, and it has so many different things in there to help you get started with your book and even start publishing your book. So we'll put the link in the show notes for everyone for that. And we'd love to hear from you. So if you have any questions about marketing, book marketing, personal branding, reach out to us.
Yeah. Awesome.
Love it. Love it. What a pleasure.
Yeah. Thanks for all your wisdom and adding value to our audience today. We really appreciate it.
It was such a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Until then, we'll see you on Set Life.